Namaste. If you're in the spirituality space or the metaphysical space, I'm sure you've heard this idea at one time or other. It's a very popular idea. Everything exists at the same time. Or you've heard this maybe in another form, that the past, present, and future are all happening right now, simultaneously. Sounds very mystical. It sounds interesting, but it's also very confusing. And if you stick around, I'll try to explain this as if I'm explaining this to a 7-year-old. This thought comes from the Vedas before it caught on to the other mystical traditions. This thought that everything exists at the same time, past, present, and future, are all happening right now, simultaneously. How is that possible? Yes, it can be a little confusing. Because in our daily life, time feels very simple. Yesterday happened, today is happening, and tomorrow will happen later. It feels like life is moving forward, one moment at a time. But according to Vedic wisdom, this is not actually how it works. What we experience as time is more like a story that we're walking through. But the entire story already exists. Let me explain this in a very simple way. Imagine you have a movie saved on your computer. When you watch the movie, you see it 1 minute at a time. The first scene, then the next scene, then the next. The beginning, the middle, and the end. But inside the hard drive of your computer, the entire movie already exists. The ending of the movie is already there. The middle is already there. The beginning is already there. It's all there in your hard drive. You are simply experiencing it frame by frame. Does that make sense? The Vedic wisdom said the universe works in a very similar way. The whole cosmic story already exists, but your mind experiences it moment by moment. Now, you may be wondering, if everything already exists, does that mean your life story is already written? Does it mean the path you are walking right now was already chosen? Well, that's why Vedic astrology exists. All of this is correlated. In Vedic wisdom, the answer is very interesting. The answer is yes, and also no. Let me explain. You see, If you live life automatically on the same path that you're walking now, reacting to situations, following habits, repeating the same patterns over and over and over again, then yes, you will experience the story that has already been written for you. Because your past actions, your past thoughts, your past choices have already created a certain direction. That direction is what we call karmic karma. Karma naturally unfolds like the next chapter in a book. But you know, the Vedas also say human beings have something powerful: free will. Free will is like being inside the movie, but realizing you can slightly change the script. If you wake up from the unconscious actions, if you become conscious, if you change how you think, if you change how you act, how you respond to life, then the path begins to shift. The story begins to change. That's why spiritual traditions always emphasize on awareness. Awareness means watching your actions, watching your environment as a separate entity, unattached, separate from your body and mind. Because awareness interrupts automatic living. Instead of reacting, you begin choosing. And when you begin choosing, you begin shaping a destiny. Slightly different from the destiny that was written for you. So yes, there is a cosmic story already there. But within that story, there are many possible paths. And your awareness helps decide which path becomes your experience. This is the dance between karma and free will. And understanding that dance is part of awakening. When people say awakening, that's what it means. They're not saying that they are now some mystical or a guru. They are simply saying that they realized something powerful in their life. Something opened up. Now, let's go deeper. In Vedic philosophy, there are two types of time. One is called Kala. This is the time that we measure. Hours, days, years, birth, aging, history. Everything moving forward. But there is another type of time called Mahakala. Mahakala is eternal time, the timeless dimension in which everything exists at once. In that dimension, nothing is really moving. The past exists. The future exists. and the present exists, but all within the same infinite consciousness. Interestingly, modern physics has started exploring similar ideas. Some physicists describe something called the block universe theory. According to this idea, time may not actually flow. Instead, all moments in time already exist, like a giant landscape, and we are simply moving through it. Wow, a scientific breakthrough. But thousands of years ago, the Vedic sages were already saying something very similar. They said, the flow of time is part of Maya. Maya means illusion. They didn't mean that the world is fake, but that our perception of it is incomplete. It's like watching a movie and forgetting that you're watching a movie. Now here's where things become even more fascinating. The Vedas say there is only one ultimate reality. That reality is called Brahman, pure consciousness, infinite awareness. Everything we see, every person, every animal, every planet, every galaxy is simply a different expression of that same consciousness. The oneness concept, like waves in the same ocean. The waves may look separate, but they're all water. There's a beautiful metaphor in the Vedic tradition called Indra's net. Indra is the supreme Vedic deity, the king of the Devas, king of all God forces. Let me explain the Indra's net metaphor. Imagine a giant cosmic spiderweb stretching across the entire universe. At every intersection of the web, there is a sparkling jewel, and each jewel reflects every other jewel across the web. When you look into one jewel, you see the whole universe, because every jewel reflects all the others, like a mirror. In this story, you are one of those jewels. So am I. So is every person. So are the stars. So are the other trees. Everything reflects everything else. Which means we are all deeply connected. And actually, you can see a modern version of this idea playing out in our world today. Okay, think about the way television news works. It's a network of channels, like a spider web. You turn on one channel, maybe CNN, and they show a story. Then you switch on to another channel, maybe MSNBC, and you hear almost exact same story. Sometimes even the same words when it comes to news, the same phrases, and even the same tone. Then you check other networks, and the same news is repeating again and again and again. Hundreds of channels reflecting the same news. Almost like mirrors reflecting mirrors. And what is the message most of the time? Fear, conflict, crises, war, anger, division. It's like a modern version of the Indra's net, except instead of reflecting wisdom and connection, many of these reflections are just spreading fear. And when millions of people watch the same message over and over and over again, that energy spreads through the web. Fear reflects fear. Anger reflects anger. Panic reflects panic. But Indra's net works both ways. It's neutral. Just as fear spreads, so does kindness. Just as anger spreads, so does compassion. Just as panic spreads, so does peace. Which means every person who chooses clarity, every person who chooses kindness, every person who chooses wisdom begins reflecting a different energy through the web. And that reflection travels further than most people realize. Because right now in our world, many people are experiencing a very heavy timeline. War, hatred, separation, fear, scarcity, power struggles, money, ego. And when you watch the news, it feels like this is the only reality that exists. But remember something. We are only experiencing one part of the cosmic story. One timeline in the infinite movie. Right now, brutal acts of war is happening in the world. Power struggles and ego battles. People believing that domination is strength. Cultures believing that war is the only solution. This is what happens when consciousness is not awakened, when societies forget their deeper nature. They begin to believe that control is power, and that violence is success, that fear is leadership. But from the perspective of higher consciousness. This is simply ego playing its role in the cosmic story at this time. Now, if you're already focused on in this time period, you probably want to question this. You're probably thinking now, war is happening. People are dying. How can you talk about shifting your reality to peace at this time? Isn't that irresponsible? Doesn't that mean that you don't care? And the answer is no. That is not irresponsibility. That is awareness. Because the darker forces in this world want something very specific. They want your reaction. They want your fear. They want your anger. They want you to join their emotional battlefield. They want your mind to become part of the same energy. Because the moment you react with hatred, you're now playing in the same field. You've joined the game. But awakening means something different. It means understanding what is happening and choosing consciously which energy you contribute to the web. You can still feel compassion. You can still care deeply about people suffering. You can still pray. You can still help. But you refuse to become a transmitter of hatred. You refuse to become a mirror of the same darkness. Instead, you become a mirror of something else. A mirror of compassion, a mirror of peace, a mirror of wisdom. And when enough people choose that energy, the web begins to change. Because remember, in the Indra's net, every jewel reflects every other jewel. Which means every act of kindness changes the entire web. Every moment of compassion changes the web. Every peaceful thought changes the web. And since you are a part of that web, that energy always comes back to you. So the deeper meaning of everything exists at the same time is not just a philosophy idea. It's a reminder. You are a part of something vast. You are part of something intelligent, something interconnected. And your thoughts matter. Your words matter. Your actions matter. Because every jewel in the cosmic web reflects every other jewel. And maybe the simplest way to live in this universe is also the most powerful way. by spreading kindness, spreading light, spreading positivity. Because in the cosmic mirror of consciousness, whatever you send out is exactly what comes back. Namaste.